Hey, what is up everyone? Today I'm taking a look at the 1/35th scale USMC Exoframe from Obsolete. As usual, this video right here would not have been possible without those awesome people over at Hobbylink Japan, so if you want one of these of your own or for any of your model kit needs, check out that link down there in the description. So when it comes to Good Smile Company's line of model kits, which is MODEROID, I knew absolutely nothing about them when I got into building this kit. So this is my first experience ever with the MODEROID, and as far as I know from what I've checked out right now, this is more of a smaller model kit than you'd see from a lot of their more over-the-top Japanese style mecha designs. So the first thing that really shocked me about this is just how small it is. I guess I didn't know what to expect. It is 1/35th military scale. It is just a little exosuit, not a full-on mecha, so I will mention it is very small. I'm talking about 10 cm max. As for the build, the plastic we get in here is in two different colors. That is for the inner structure as well as the outer armor. So this has a previously released kit technically in it. That of course is a large percentage of the 1/35th scale MODEROID multi-purpose exoframe. It has the vast majority of that in this, and then you just build the armor on top of it, which is pretty cool. This is quite simple, while at the same time very nicely designed. This isn't a snap build, however. Some glue is required in that traditional model kit kind of way, so this is a little bit between something like an Airfix kit and like a frame arms in a way. Because there is only two colors in the build, that does mean that if you want it to look like it did in the YouTube Original Series Obsolete, then you are going to have to do some painting. As for the actual assembly of everything, it is, like I mentioned already, very simple. Everything is holding together very well so far, but when you want to pose this particular kit, you will have to be quite careful. It kind of feels like the joints on here are just for putting it into a finished pose, not necessarily for playing around with it. This particular version of the Exoframe, the AREX03 Toad, is a variant of another version of this kit that came out before, just with some extra weaponry, which is a big ol' laser as well as a radar. I will mention that this particular mecha cannot use both weapons at once technically, so you might want to grab two. But yeah, once again, the build is a lot of fun, it holds together perfectly, it does have some degree of articulation, and I guess, hey, it's about time we took a look at it. So anyway, that right there is absolutely everything that comes in the box once you have it all built up. That is the Toad Exoframe itself, its US Marine Corps pilot. We have a second pilot in here which is kind of removed halfway through the build, as well as all of these parts also removed halfway through the build. We've got an extra pair of hands, the big old radar, the massive laser, an assault rifle, what looks like a toothpick but is actually a handheld torch, and finally we do have a little sheet of water slide decals in here. I actually appreciate the fact that they put it in a little Ziploc style baggie, because this is more robust than something you'd see in a Gunpla kit, which means absolutely no damage. But anyway, before we look at all the accessories, let's check out the Exoframe itself. So at first glance, when just snapped together like this, the Toad is a very nice and really cool real robot style mecha. Once again, this is more of an exosuit, not necessarily a mecha, as in, it's not that much bigger than a human would be, it's just, well, if a mecha was a truck, this would be a forklift. So I haven't done anything but snipping this off the runners, and that is about it. So you can see there is a little bit of mold lines here and there, but nothing too bad. The cleanup isn't the worst around, and out of the box, it does look really cool. I like this a lot. So getting into the old brass tacks about this little guy right here, this will cost about $24, which might seem a little steep when you consider, well, it's just about the size of a Core Gundam, which is about half the price of this kit. And if we are doing a price per price comparison, it'd be more around the price of the high-grade Marchosius right here. So as you can see, this is one tiny little kit. However, when it does come to model kits, it's hard to beat the bang for the buck that you do get with Gunpla. They're the best priced anime-related collectible out there in my personal opinion. This, I think, is almost more comparable to something like this, which at usual obnoxious Games Workshop prices is twice the price of that right here. And this one right here is even more as far as I remember. So compared to both of those, which are just solid lumps of plastic essentially that have no real posing opportunities. If you try and compare like with like, I guess it's a little bit more of a steal there. And the reason I'm actually mentioning these right here compared to this is because honestly these are so outdated, don't really do anything, and don't look as cool as they could. I really feel you could grab the Toad right here and the different variants of these exosuits. And with the fact that you can actually pose this, that would be pretty awesome, especially if you stole some of their weapons. I feel this would make an absolute fantastic proxy for those particular battlesuits. So anyway, moving back to what this is and not what it could be, this will need some paint in order to make it look exactly like it did in Obsolete. And compared to what we're seeing right there in the box, it doesn't look like you'll need a whole lot. Maybe just a little bit of a wash and some dark brown detailing. A little bit of silver here and there, but honestly, not the worst. Honestly, I've only one gripe about this particular kit, and it's a really stupid one. And that is, there is no detail inside of the cockpit section right there. It is just where all the parts are fixed together with some space for the pilot. Would have been nice to actually see a console, some levers, and a little bit of detail in there, but once again, not the worst. Anyway, finally there's a full 360 spin so you can see all the detail on this for yourself. Once again, this is a very nice, detailed, military style, real robot mecha, and I adore it. If I actually get the time, I will try to paint this up a little bit, but at the same time, I am considering converting this into some kind of Tau battlesuit. That's probably what I'm gonna do. But anyway, that is enough about the looks. Let's check out what sort of articulation we've got on the Toad here. So when it comes to the articulation on this little guy right here, it is very simple. For example, most of the joints that do anything on this are just pegs into holes. And when it actually comes to the more complex joints on this, they're just that kind of joint you see on a lot of action figures, which are just two halves of a kind of ball with two pegs sticking off that stick together. This probably has a name that I don't know, so if you know what it's called, drop it down there and educate me. And as for the actual articulation on this, I'm going to be doing some test poses once again today instead of going through every joint one by one, just to see what we can actually get functionally out of this little guy. First off, we're going to try out a crouch, and this thing does so much better than I was expecting, and this is why I like actually doing test poses. You get to see what it can do. So this does have a lot of simple joints, but they do, well, what you want them to. You're able to move the hip section out so you can get the knee up. The knee bend is quite good, and for, once again, a very real robot, clunky looking walking tank, this pulls off a decent and dynamic little crouch. So moving up the legs a little bit, and we're moving on to a side lunge, and once again I'm surprised by what this little exoframe can pull off. So once again, it does very well with the little side lunge right there. The only thing I will mention is that this kit is a little on the back heavy side as you'd expect, with that big old container for a pilot, and there is no pilot in here yet, so once you pop in that figure, it gets a little bit more back heavy. Another thing is that the entire ankle does not pivot on this particular kit. It's more of a front foot section that pivots while the heel still stays in place. Still, nice little lunge right here. I don't know at what point I'd mention this in, so I'll mention it right here. We do have a little wheel segment here that can swing down like so. You may have seen that in the lunge, and that can shift the weight a little bit, but not a lot. Also, these little flappy flappies can move up like so. So next up, we're going to be doing a little bit of a jumping jack to check just how much it can do the splits and how high it can raise up its arms. This is as high as both can go, which I guess is in line with a very clunky battle real robot style mech. So from a design perspective, makes sense. From a posing perspective, a little bit limited. As for anything else worth mentioning here, we do have a little bit of swinging forward at the shoulders, which is very, very nice. There is an ab crunch of sorts in here, which is, again, quite surprising for something that looks like it would have next to no movement. You can raise the arms further by rotating them around like so. We've got a hatch up top here that can open like this, and the back thingamabobber, entrance, hatch, whatever, can open and close like so. Also, almost forgot to mention, the legs can rotate at this point here, and at the upper leg, which is very, very nice. So anyway, jumping back to the accessories we saw earlier on in the review, and let's check everything out one by one. I will mention I won't be talking about the parts that come in other kits, which are the female pilot, and the extra parts that were taken off the internal frame during the build. So first off, in here we've got that 1/35th scale pilot. You do have to glue this together. I did find the peg for attaching the upper body to the legs quite tight. That's why we've got a little bit of a gap right there. But besides that, pretty cool. Got some mold lines to clean up. we can pop him in that little hatch in the back like so. Close it up. He rattles around. Ooh. Nice moves. As for the hands that we've gotten here, we've got a pair of widespread hands that we've been seeing the whole time throughout this, as well as a pair of holding hands left and right for holding the weapons. The hands attach via a standard little peg, so this is quite simple. Popping them on and reattaching them is just a case of pulling them off and sticking them on. And I will mention this wrist does not have any articulation besides rotation on that peg. As for the weapons we've got, first off we've got this little assault rifle. As you can see, this is quite nicely detailed, but there is no color besides that one beige we have for all of the armor. But according to the box up here, it looks like all we have to do is paint the barrel a dark brown and give the rest of it a wash, and you should be, well, color accurate. The handle on this is just a generic cylinder. This may or may not bother some people. It does look a little on the plain side, and I thought it'd be worth noting. If you don't want to be engaging in some long range or medium range combat, we do have a close quarters weapon in here, which is the toothpick. According to the instructions, this is the tactical torch, and this should look like a cigarette, not a toothpick. And if you want to get that beam just right, you're gonna need yourself some white and blue paint. So as for the pieces of equipment which make this kit unique, we've got the radar right here, and the anti-artillery laser. So this is a big old piece of machinery right here we're attaching, so this does get a little difficult to attach due to the fact that there is no articulation at the wrist. So you're just gonna have to raise the arm almost up, straight parallel to the ground, and attach it on like this. So this is definitely one big hunk of a laser right here. It does look pretty cool, but of course this does need a little bit of cleanup as you'd expect with this kind of model kit, and quite a bit of paint up front. I'll also mention this can be held in both hands because there is a handle up front, although this is a little bit awkward to pull off and does look a little bit on the wonky side. From some angles it does look pretty cool, from others not so much, but it can be held in both hands if you angle everything just the right way. So the last accessory we have in here is that big old radar. So you can attach this into either hand, of course, but the instruction says to use the left hand holding hand, so let's use that one. Also, we do see it in the instructions in a crouching pose, so that's exactly what I'm going to do as well. And getting this all attached is quite simple. It can be a little bit difficult to line up the wrist once again to attach onto the handle round back, but once again, I have to admit, nothing has ever fallen off on me during this review, besides sometimes a bit of slippage at the forearm, but besides that, this is more solid than I thought it would be. And also, I don't know, is it just me or does the front of that radar look a little bit like a non-slip big rubber tile? Either way, that is what it looks like attached, and it's pretty damn cool. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and because this is not Gunpla, I will not be tiering it, but I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed this kit right here. It's a quick build, well, to this point I guess. There's still a lot more to be done, some details, some battle damage, some weathering, and this will look phenomenal. It's nice, what can I say? It's unlike anything I've ever built before, because I guess I don't build a lot of military style kits like this, but it's definitely something I would like to do a lot more of. Once again, I haven't checked out a whole lot of MODEROID kits, but I am impressed so far. Have you tried out any MODEROID kits? Is there any you recommend? If so, let me know down there in the comments. Once again, if you're into these style of military scale mecha real robot style kits, I recommend giving one of these a go. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more model kit reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, I cannot finish this video right here without thanking you right now who's watching this video, as well as everyone who supports me on the channel memberships and over on Patreon, including Sean T, Caleb Engelhart, Craig Jerry, Tyler Sanders, and Brian Perez.